The courtroom was moving at its usual fast pace. Cases came and went, arguments flew across the room, and everyone expected another ordinary day in front of Judge Fleischer. She was known for her sharp words, quick decisions, and zero patience for excuses. But on this particular day, no one knew they were about to witness something unforgettable. A woman in her early 30s stood at the plaintiff's table, arms folded tightly across her chest. Her face was tense, her voice shaky but determined. Across from her stood a man wearing a wrinkled blue shirt, nervously rubbing his hands together. The case itself sounded simple at first. It was a custody related financial dispute. The mother was accusing the father of missing several support payments. She claimed he was irresponsible and avoiding his duties. Judge Fleischer adjusted her glasses and looked at the man. Sir, she said firmly, why haven't you been making these payments? The man swallowed hard. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. I'm trying, Your Honor, he replied quietly. I lost my job 6 months ago. I've been working part-time where I can. The mother rolled her eyes dramatically. That's always his excuse, she snapped. There's always some problem. Judge Fleischer raised her hand. You'll speak when I ask you to. The courtroom fell silent again. Judge Fleischer turned back to the father. You lost your job. Fine. What have you done since then? He hesitated. I've applied everywhere, he said. Construction, delivery, warehouse jobs, anything. Judge Fleischer narrowed her eyes. And? He looked down at the floor. No one's hiring me full time. The tension in the room thickened. At that moment, a tiny voice suddenly broke the silence. My daddy cries every night. Every head in the courtroom turned. Sitting beside the mother was a little girl, maybe 7 years old, with neatly braided hair and a pink sweater. Until now, she had been sitting quietly, swinging her legs under the chair. Judge Fleischer stared at her. What did you say, sweetheart? The girl looked completely innocent, unaware that all eyes were now on her. She repeated herself softly. My daddy cries every night. The room became so quiet you could hear papers rustling. Even the court officers exchanged glances. Judge Fleischer leaned forward slightly. Why do you say that? The little girl looked toward her father. Because I hear him, she answered. He thinks I'm asleep. Her father immediately covered his face with one hand. The mother shifted uncomfortably. Judge Fleischer's usual sharp expression softened just a little. What do you hear? The child answered with heartbreaking honesty. He cries in the kitchen, sometimes in the bathroom too. He says he's sorry. A murmur spread through the courtroom. The father wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed. Judge Fleischer stayed silent for several seconds, something that almost never happened. The little girl kept talking. He tells me everything will be okay, but then when I go to bed, I hear him crying. The mother looked stunned, as if she never expected this moment. Judge Fleischer slowly removed her glasses. For once, she didn't have an immediate response. The entire courtroom was frozen. Finally, Judge Fleischer spoke, but her voice was much gentler than before. Sir, is that true? The father nodded without looking up. Yes, ma'am. Why? He took a shaky breath. Because I feel like I'm failing her. The words landed heavily in the room. He continued. I used to provide everything. School supplies, birthday gifts, dance classes. Then I lost my job. Everything collapsed. He paused. I can handle struggling. What I can't handle is watching my daughter think I don't care. The little girl looked confused. But I know you care, she said. The father broke down completely. He turned away, trying to hide his tears, but it was too late. Judge Fleischer pressed her lips together. The woman, the mother, looked down, suddenly less certain. Judge Fleischer shifted her attention to her. Did you know any of this? The mother shook her head. No. You didn't know your child was hearing this? No, Your Honor. Judge Fleischer sighed. This is what happens when adults are so busy fighting each other that they forget who's actually suffering. Her words were sharp again, but this time aimed at both parents. She pointed toward the little girl. That child is carrying emotional weight she should never have to carry. No one dared interrupt. Judge Fleischer turned back to the father. Sir, are you behind on payments? Yes. By how much? He named the amount. Judge Fleischer reviewed the paperwork carefully. Then she asked a question no one expected. Have you missed visitation? The mother hesitated. No. Judge Fleischer looked up. So, despite financial hardship, he continues seeing his daughter regularly? Yes. And has he ever abandoned her? No. Judge Fleischer nodded slowly. That matters. She leaned back in her chair. Money is important. Support matters. But this court also recognizes effort. The father looked up for the first time. Judge Fleischer continued. This man is not sitting here laughing about unpaid support. He is clearly under severe financial strain. She turned to the mother. That does not excuse missing payments, but it does require perspective. The mother's expression softened. Judge Fleischer made her ruling. She arranged a temporary modified payment schedule until the father could secure stable employment. She also ordered both parents to attend co-parenting counseling. Then she added something unexpected. And I strongly suggest, she said, looking at both of them, that the next conversation you have is not about blame. She pointed toward their daughter. It's about her. The little girl smiled faintly, not fully understanding the legal outcome, but sensing the tension had shifted. Before dismissing the case, Judge Fleischer looked directly at the child. You love your daddy very much, don't you? The girl nodded proudly. Yes, Judge Fleischer smiled. And he loves you very much too. The father covered his mouth, overwhelmed. The little girl then asked something that nearly broke the entire courtroom. Can my daddy stop crying now? A few people in the gallery visibly wiped their eyes. Even the bailiff looked away. Judge Fleischer paused once more. Then she answered quietly, I think things are going to get a little better. The girl grinned. Her father crouched beside her as the hearing ended, hugging her tightly. The mother stood nearby, her face filled with mixed emotions, guilt, sadness, and perhaps understanding for the first time. As they prepared to leave, something unusual happened. The mother walked over to the father. No shouting, no accusations, just a quiet sentence. We'll figure this out. He looked at her, shocked, then nodded. Sometimes the biggest truths don't come from lawyers, evidence, or arguments. Sometimes they come from the smallest voice in the room, a child with no agenda, no strategy, just honesty. That day, the case wasn't really about unpaid support. It was about pride, pain, and the silent ways adults struggle behind closed doors. But most importantly, it was about how children notice everything, even the tears parents think no one sees. As the family walked out of the courtroom together, the little girl held both her parents' hands. And for the first time all day, the father smiled, not because his problems were magically solved, not because life had suddenly become easy, but because someone had finally heard him. And in the unlikeliest place possible, a courtroom known for conflict, a small child had reminded everyone of something simple. Behind every legal case is a human story, and sometimes the truth is much heavier than paperwork can show. Judge Fleischer watched them leave. She put her glasses back on, glanced at the next file, and quietly muttered words barely caught by the microphones. Kids always tell the truth. The courtroom doors closed, but no one in that room would forget what they had just witnessed. Not the arguments, not the ruling, but 7 simple words from a little girl that silenced even Judge Fleischer. My daddy cries every night.